Hello everyone, welcome back to Layers. I was going to say welcome to Layers, but you've already been here 2 weeks ago when we were talking about the Anubis Gate album, Interference, with Kim Olesen, who is here once again. Hi Kim, good to have you here, brother. We're going to be talking about the rest of the record, and obviously, as you saw on the title card, we're starting with the song The Phoenix, which is the fourth song on the record. What can you tell us about that one?
That was me just wanting to make an 80s kind of track, just with a little bit of heavy metal guitar. And it's a very positive song, that whatever happens to you, it's actually possible to rise out of it. And that's something that I feel very strongly because 10, 12 years ago, I went through a severe depression and did all the therapy stuff. And you know what? It actually did me all kinds of good, and I'm very good today, or I'm feeling so much better today. So you can actually, it takes effort, but if you put in the effort, you can rise out of so much.
I think that's a good message. I feel that indeed it's like, even if life sometimes feels hopeless, and I feel that, let's just say it as it is, most people who listen to prog tend to be the kind of people that like their music difficult because their brain is sometimes difficult as well. There is a bit of a correlation there. So I feel that it's a message that cannot be said enough. The situation sometimes might feel shitty, but there is ways to get out if you're willing to work for it, if you're willing to put the effort in. I think that's a good message.
There are a couple of funny things about that song, actually, because sometimes I just get a crazy musical idea, of putting something in that you're not supposed to do in heavy metal. The kind of the last passage of it where it has the piano part that goes down, 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 and that's the most common chord progression in the world. It's kind of C, G, A minor, F. You're not ever supposed to do that in heavy metal. And I want to do this. And then I want to see if people notice that it's that chord progression.
So you were secretly writing pop music, you just disguised it as heavy metal. That's what you did, basically.
Yeah. And there are kind of little tweaks in the harmonic structure of that song that I'm kind of way too proud of.
Hey, that's
like
good.
The chorus, which is kind of if it was in the chord of C, it goes from C to G minor to F minor, which is kind of you can't do that in C major, but you can if you do it the right way. I'm very much a chordophile. I really think a lot of in chords and not as much in riffs, actually.
For me, it's funny that you say that because I've had a lot of discussions with musicians playing on my own music because I tend to be like, and this is going to be D sharp. And then they look at me like, why? It's like, because I want to. But it's not supposed to be that way. It's like, I don't care. In my world, it is. So that's where you go. But I see your point, though. It's like, if you think from a harmonic perspective, I can imagine that doing something like that on purpose has a different meaning to it, as opposed to just saying, yeah, it's just cool, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, if we go back to Number Stations, which was in the previous episode, the intro for that was actually me writing chords on a lot of small slices of paper and picking them out at random.
That's even better.
And then that's my challenge, I have those chords, how can I write lines that make this work?
Yeah, I like that. That's actually a really fun writing exercise. I can get that, yeah. Okay, so the next one we're going to head into is Equations. What can you tell us about that one?
That's mostly Michael's song. The chorus was me. He had another chorus and it was very good, but Equations was kind of one of the last songs when we make an album. And I don't know if you can recognize this, but when you have 8 songs, you kind of think about the album as one song. So it was like it wasn't the right chorus that we needed for that part of the album.
Oh right, yeah. Really like, and it's really hard to define what that is, but you just know it. Your gut feeling just tells you like, this is not what I want to hear here.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it can be one keyboard sound in one song, and I will kind of think, oh wow, this ping defines the album. And I mean, it's just so. Of course, it doesn't. I mean, we've never ever had a song with harsh vocals, with shouts for real in it. So I just took it up on myself to see if I actually could do that. I couldn't speak for a week. Sometimes it's also nice to surprise people and make them go, oh, they really did that,
No, they could do that.
I didn't know, It's a great song. It's very kind of thrashy, and I like that.
Yeah, it does have that thrashy vibe. Yeah, it has an attitude, a nice little attitude.
Yeah, it has.
Which I can appreciate. I like titles that have like something that not necessarily rhymes, but there's a rhythm to it. And I saw dissonance, consonance, and was like, oh, you bastards, that's a good title. What about that one? Tell me about it.
Well, yeah, lyrically, actually, I thought it was a political song, and said so in a couple of interviews. And then Henrik rang me up and said, actually, it's a love song. But
Oops.
that one has a really funny story. When I was a conservatoire student, I majored in jazz playing before Anubis Gate and played a lot of fusion stuff. And then we got an assignment one day to write something that utilized a compositional principle. And in Denmark, we have a contemporary modern classic composer called Per Nørgaard, who has made up a concept of infinity lines, and it's kind of like a 12-note music thing, and you put in a line, and then if you do it correct, out comes a totally different set of notes. And that was my assignment, and I recorded it as a demo. When we made the Purification album, I played that demo to the other guys, and they said, wow, we should do that song. It's really strange. We should do that one. And it only took 20 years for us to do it. Actually, the notes I put in Miles Davis, So What? But out came what became dissonance, consonance, those strange notes. So actually, it was a conservatoire assignment that I wrote for a compositional class.
Yeah, but it's funny how that works, because sometimes I personally had this, but I've heard this from many musicians over the years. It's like, especially when you're making a record, sometimes there's just this idea that you've had for so long, and it's like, yeah, we're not ready. No, we're not doing this. No, we're not ready. And then suddenly, 20 years later, it's like, ha, now we're ready. It just kind of happens, and I feel that that's kind of cool, because then the song time traveled along with you, which is also kind of neat.
I love stuff like that. I would say I suggested to the others that we drop this song off the album, actually.
Wow.
Because I wasn't sure about it. I think it's a very good track. I just felt it was too way out and too avant-garde for...
I'll just be honest that it's one of my favorites on the record, but, that says a lot about my taste. It's like, I really like
you're
it.
You're not the only one to say that, and I'm very glad we kept it, but it was the other three who talked me into keeping it on the album. So...
Thank you. Much appreciated. Okay, and then we're heading into the final track for this second episode, and that's The Intergalactic Dream of Stardom. Beautiful title, once again, and mood. A lot of people, at the end of the day, secretly might want to be a star, but I feel that there's a deeper meaning underneath this one than the title might suggest. So please enlighten me.
Yeah, I think it's a kind of fantasy over Interstellar. Actually, that guy who goes off to save the world. So it's kind of, that's the lyrical thing about it. And that one also had a really fun genesis, because, typically for us, songs kind of have 20-25 versions before they're the final version. But this one had way more. It had 25 versions of the first version. Then I took the vocals from that and made an entirely new track over the vocals that Henrik had recorded for that version. And that went through quite a few until that one got sacked as well, and we arrived at the final one. So, all in all, I think it had 70 different...
17?
Yeah. Some of the changes are small, but some of the changes are big. That's how we write. Every time I go in and change a thing, and that can be a whole chorus but it can also be 2 new tracks of keyboards or something. It
That's
gets
fair.
a new
That's fair.
version number.
I can imagine that when you work the way you do. I mean, we were mentioning the Dropbox band thing in the first episode, for those of you who missed that one. I can also imagine that it is kind of nice because it gives you a fresh perspective, and you can also listen to it like 4 weeks later with a fresh set of ears and be like, this does not work at all. Let's redo it. You know, like I can feel that it could be a benefit, but it could also really be dangerous because 70 versions is kind of ridiculous, my dude. That's a lot of versions.
I know, but I actually quite like the second main version, but then Michael wrote to me that he thought it was crap, so we had to
Thank you, Michael. Much appreciated. It's funny though. It's like I tend to be, and I don't like. I mean, you also have like the songwriter producer kind of view. And this is just an interesting little side thing, but it is something that I feel also goes into the songwriting and how this show works. Like, I've heard so many stories, for example, like the classic Michael Jackson story that they did 92 vocal takes and take 5 was the good one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get that version 70 made it this time, so then it was worth it. But I also feel that there is maybe a danger in that at times, perhaps, of overdoing
Well, there
it,
is. Right? It took 6 years to make the album, so... but then again, also... Of course, we recorded 24 tracks in that period, and 10 made the album, and the other were cover tracks. I think my ethics in that is that I don't ever want to release something which I will think 5 years up the line, oh, I can't stand listening to that.
No, that's fair, but that kind of speaks for itself. You want to put something out there that is legit good. Like, sure, you might improve. I mean, I don't know how that is with you, but for example, if I listen to my old records, I'm like, oh, I want to mix this again because this doesn't sound good because I can do better now. You know, like that kind of situation. But from a songwriter perspective, I'm still proud of what I wrote, and that's what you want, right? You want to be able to play a 20-year-old song again and feel comfortable about it, basically.
Yeah, but actually the thing about the mix, I know because you're thinking from a kind of, your skill has increased kind of thing, but except the last 2 records which I mixed, except Jacob did the drums for me because I couldn't mix a drum kit safe for my life. Well, I could, but it would take me much longer. And Jacob would still do it better.
I mean, it's Jacob Hansen, come on. It's like...
I mean, exactly. But I mean, when I listen to the old albums, I can hear that they're kind of, they're mixed in a little bit more simple way, even for Jacob Hansen, because he has also learned along the way.
But that's the point. That's what I mean. It's like, it's not necessarily saying it's bad. I mean, it's like there's always this personal criticism. Like, for me, I have to admit that I sometimes have a hard time listening to my older stuff because I'm like, oh man, I learned so much. I learned to do it so much better. But at the same time, it's like, okay, but those records did sell and people like them. So I'm also not going to go out and change everything because they like it. And I want to be respectful of that as well, you know? So it's like...
Exactly. I mean, it was that point in time. And I mean, A Perfect Forever has a sound that I wouldn't want it mixed today. I mean, it's like, the Please Please Me album with the Beatles, which are my favorite band. It sounds like that because they only had 8 channels and they recorded it
and they had to do everything in that. Yeah, exactly. It's like, deal with it. This is the limit. Good luck. That's what it is. Yeah. Well, thank you once again for your time on this. Thank you for enlightening us about the record. In 2 weeks, we're going to go for episode 3 of this interview, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be heading into the final part of Interference, and hope you guys obviously will be watching it, will be enjoying it. Leave your comments in the comment section, and I don't know, call your mom. Do something, do something wholesome. I feel that would be a good message. Do something wholesome for a change. And we hope to see you again in 2 weeks at the final part of this interview with Kim from Anubis Gate. See you guys later. Bye.